quote that I want to focus on is that when Mr. Gascoli says, I represent an organization and I'm paid to do it. That's my job. They pay me to speak for them. I don't speak for myself. I speak for them. And in our opinion, if you're on a committee that is supposed to be my primary vehicle for giving input as a citizen in this community, we have someone sitting on the rack who has been paid to speak for his organization. That's unethical. My wife, Susan, has some comments she'd also like to make, but I'd like to just conclude with, I don't feel we can have a fair hearing on a project if we have people sitting on the rack who are prejudiced, who have prejudged us. As I'm speaking right now, I'm sure he's seeing a NIMBY, he's seeing an activist, rather than a citizen who has serious concerns. And I thank this committee, this board, for listening. And my wife has some things to add. If you have any questions, obviously I'm not going anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lazaro.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. I believe this is a very important issue for the Board of Ethics to rule on, because I think it speaks to the kind of behavior that residents have a right to expect from public officials. So I think far more, this isn't about Mr. Gascoli. I agree with my husband. I'm sure he's a fine man. It's about really what we have a right to expect from our public officials. And I know this is pedantic, but the Chula Vista Municipal Code Board of Ethics begins by saying, the respected operation of democratic government emphasizes that public officials be independent, impartial, and responsible to the people. The public judges its government by the way public officials conduct themselves in the posts to which they are elected or appointed. All public officials should conduct themselves in a manner that will tend to preserve public confidence in and respect for the government represented. So I believe that the comments that you have just heard fly in the face of what the public has a right to expect from one of their appointed officials. It would be unseemly if Mayor Cox or Councilmember Rinden wrote in some public newspaper disparaging remarks about residents. If they called residents NIMBYs or whiners or complainers, it would be an unseemly activity for a public official, and that's just what we feel has happened here. And as Mr. Gascoli has said on the tape we just played for you, I'm paid to represent Pacific Southwest Realtors. They work all day. They are busy, and I come and I do what they want me to. I do what they want me to do, and so I say, why not just stay home? Why have a public meeting? Everybody can just email in their yes or no vote. If that's how it's going to be, if the organizations are going to just vote the way that their group members tell them to vote. And on that particular point, I want to say that my husband and I and Phil Lopez here, we went to Crossroads. Crossroads also sits on RAC. We went to the Northwest Association. We asked them to take a position on a particular development. We asked them to take a position against Ostrom's Riverwalk development. The other two organizations both declined to take a position. They declined to take a position because they said they could not take a position until all the facts were in, until they knew more about the specific project, saw the EIR, knew the impact on Chula Vista, and they also told us that to take a position would compromise their representatives on the RAC. So that's a fundamentally different philosophy than what you heard on the tape. That is the kind of representation we hope. We hope that people come to the RAC and are there to let their opinion be shaped, among other things, by public comment. And when we went to that meeting, we really thought people were sitting up on the dais and that they were there to receive our public opinion. And obviously that wasn't true. We also have said in our complaint that Mr. Gascoli took a position as a member of the Board of Directors of the Chamber of Commerce. And we have given you an email that says our board of directors took a position on this lovely project in April, and Mr. Discoli was sitting on the board of directors at the time. I understand that Mr. Discoli says that he wasn't in attendance at the meeting. I'm not really sure about that, but I believe if the Board of Ethics takes a position, even if one member happens to be ill, that unless that member that was ill publicly says, I don't agree with that position, then that position stands for all the people who are on the Board of Directors or the Board of Ethics. So having taken a position ahead of time is also in contradiction with the philosophy that the RAC was founded for. The duties that I have referred you to say the duty of the RAC will be to provide a means for private citizens to advise the CDRC on the development applications. Private citizens to advise the CDRC through the RAC. The duties of the RAC members are to gather information and serve as a communication link between the CDRC. Page 8, it will be the duty of the RAC to periodically seek community-wide understanding of and participation in the planning and implementation process. The RAC will give due consideration to all responsible community attitudes. How can you do that? If you're saying, I'm there to represent Pacific Southwest Association Realtors, and what they tell me to do is what I'm going to do, it's in conflict with the entire concept of the RAC. I'm just about done here. I think the other thing I wanted to say is that I'm not sure about this, but once, a long time ago, I read in Union Tribune that when Mr. Watry brought something to the Board of Ethics about the CDRC, and Moore said that that's a 5013C and it's not under the purview of the Board of Ethics. I would really hope that since all of this is related, all of this is under the city council, the city manager, that it's also that everybody that sits in a public capacity is responsible to the Board of Ethics. And I guess I'm going to rest there.
Thank you.